What is up, everybody? This is John Drake from the Nerfherder Council and Talking into Infinity, and you are listening to Discography Discussion.
Goddamn right you are.
You're listening to Discography Discussion, episode 265, Guns and Roses, with John Drake of the Nerfherder Council.
By the way, I'm listening. I'm going to mix myself a drink while you're talking.
Hosted by Dan Terry.
Not in my little car. My car's so small I have to put it on. You know, like I couldn't. No way.
Yabba dabba doo!
No way. Right?
And Joseph Wren. It's the Duke Nukem Forever of rock records.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
Presented by discussmetal.com. And if you're ready for me to take you down to the Paradise City, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. That is Dan. John Drake is here from the Nerfherder Council.
What's up? Yeah!
Are you ready, John?
I am very, very, very ready to tell Dan why he is wrong about Guns N' Roses.
Oh, bro, you know how this works. Even if you come up with legitimate points, we will edit them out to make me look good. I'm bulletproof, baby.
I don't get paid for that.
But you do get paid in scotch. So, you know, we figured that out. I'm subscribing on Patreon so that I can pay for your scotch. And speaking of Patreon, maybe, Joe, why don't you mention how people can subscribe to you on Patreon? That's called a segue.
John Drake is trying to sell this podcast to everyone, and we appreciate that. You can find all of the extra content we offer at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have individual album reviews. We have shout-outs. We have monthly hangouts. It just depends how much money you think we're worth, and we appreciate every dollar you contribute to the podcast. John Drake, are we going to see you on the next hangout?
100%. Give me the date, give me the time, and I'm there.
Ooh, we're going to hang out. I'm excited.
So much hangouts.
So much hangout. So much 80s hard rock. I'm not going to call them a metal band. I'm just not going to. And that's fine. But, you know, hard rock is where we live on this episode.
You're goddamn right.
And, you know, this is an episode I've been dreading to do, and this is not going to be a Pantera situation where I'm just going to fucking, this band is just fucking horrible. I'm definitely more confused by this band than I am offended, if that makes sense.
You're also the reason it's going to be different than the Pantera episode is that your guest host is not going to be pissed off at you for like a year for dogging on the band we're talking about.
Right.
So take that, Toomey, you bastard.
He might still be mad. I don't know.
Toomey's always mad.
He doesn't talk to me that often, so I assume, but I assume that's why. So.
He's like, he doesn't talk to me very often. So there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Guns N' Roses is a confusing band. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Dan, because like I really thought like you guys brought me on because like you guys both really like Guns. Like, and they're a very unique band because they've been, I mean, just the fact they've been on a reunion tour for damn near 7 years now. Like,
holy shit.
That's incredible. And I got suckered in too. Like, my wife and I have seen it. We saw it in 2016. We're like, oh, they're back. We saw them last summer. Oh, they're back. Like, wait, what the fuck? They've been back for, So this is going to be an awesome episode.
Went away.
That depends on who you ask.
I mean, they did, but they didn't. I don't know. It's like I said, it's very confusing.
They went away.
All right.
They went away. So let's, Joe, off to you.
They went away. They had an album for near 20 years. They eventually released it, and I got my free Dr. Pepper. How about you, John?
I did too. Excellent reference, by the way. No one remembers that part of it.
I must have missed out on that. I know they offered like, hey, if they put this out before the end of the year, then we will give everyone a free Dr. Pepper.
It was delicious.
Which apparently Axl Rose was like stoked about. He thought that was the best thing that he'd ever heard.
Oh, you mean I'm going to get a free soda?
Yeah, I bet that's how he actually talks.
Yeah, right. That's Axl's actual voice.
I need
a cheeseburger.
He's a spoken word
fries.
artist. Yeah. Right. He doesn't even sing. He's just spoken word artist. That's just what his voice sounds like.
It was the worst of times.
His actual speaking voice is on the records, and when he goes like out in public and does interviews, like, yeah, I'm Axl Rose. That's his actual singing voice.
Right.
He's the exact opposite of like Jeff Tate and Joe Elliott and everything.
Oh my God! When are we gonna do a Queensryche episode?
I'm in for that one, dude.
There you go.
Am I a piece of shit for
more
thinking that
positive
this
on that
guy's
one.
singing voice is completely manufactured inside of his own head?
For Axl, man,
Don't get me wrong,
Dude.
he fucking owns it, but at what point did he pick the mic up and say, I want to sound like this?
all right, so before we get into this, I will say this. And again, like for anybody listening, I am a singer. I'm not a great singer, but I do sing. I make a nice side living singing. So I have a little bit of insider information on this.
Warming up is important.
Yeah, yes. Dude, and that's another thing. That guy takes an hour and a half to 2 hours before the show and after the show to warm up and cool down. Like, he really cares about his voice. So that's one of the things we'll bring up later is like, dude, Axl actually gives a flying fuck about his voice, unlike Stephen Pearcy, Don Dokken, guys like that. But, dude, as a singer, like, when you start singing, what comes out, comes out. So when he started singing, it was, oh, shit, I can, I sing like this, and now I can sing like that. Like it just happens. Like I can do this, and it's natural for him. You don't try to sing a certain way. When you try to sing a certain way, you suck, and then you just never go anywhere, man. It's like, so Axl, like, that's just what he does. I mean, Jeff Tate's the same way. Like, listen to Jeff Tate's speaking voice and Axl Rose's speaking voice, and then listen to their singing voices, and they're just soaring, monstrous. Like,
Huge.
It's crazy. Yeah.
80s
Yeah.
huge also.
Yep.
Back when everybody threw the reverb and a little bit of delay on it and everything just fucking works. I like Guns N' Roses, but I look back and say, everybody fell in love with the idea of Guns N' Roses. Here's a band that's hard rock in the late 80s that's not doing the triggered, fake, I'm going to say Def Leppard thing. Don't get me wrong. I love me some Def Leppard.
Right.
But here's a band that can rock. It's almost like an Aerosmith thing. And everybody just bought in. Like, this band is going to be the next Aerosmith. They're going to write these non-standard rock songs that are going to be longer than 3.5 minutes.
Wait a minute. Non-standard?
Totally, dude.
Okay, bud.
Dude, but, I mean, you're right though. Like, and I mean, Guns N' Roses was that, like you said, Aerosmith's like the perfect example because that's obviously one of Slash's like biggest influences. Joe Perry and like it was like an Aerosmith thing. It was like the hard rock songs, but it was and I know this will probably sound cliche, but it's really true when you listen to it. It's Aerosmith. If you put Aerosmith on a bunch of coke, heroin, and booze, like just in a little bit of speed, like it's that just jacked up,
So,
like a muscular.
Aerosmith.
Dan, what did I just say?
But Aerosmith.
What about Aerosmith mixed with Motley Crue? Can we say that?
I would do that.
So would
Yeah.
Motley Crue.
They could have brought some of Motley Crue. They could have brought some of Motley Crue's riffs with them.
Well, see. I thought we were going to go throughout the catalog, but we're already off and running. Dan, you off air, you are not a fan of Guns N' Roses, and you just said, "Oh, Motley Crue's riffs are better than Guns N' Roses." What you just said, which is a complete and utter horrific fallacy.
John,
so explain yourself.
You got to take a ride on the wild side
All right,
every now and then.
Let me explain. Let me explain what I mean. I enjoy Motley Crue's riffs more than I enjoy Guns N' Roses riffs. Does that make sense?
That's awesome content. That's awesome content.
It also boils down to the fact that Motley Crue is a metal band and Guns N' Roses is a sometimes metal band. I'm not criticizing them for not being necessarily a metal band, but Discuss Metal Dan's gonna like more metal style riffs overall than he is. I don't like the weird sort of blues swing sort of sound of bands like Guns N' Roses.
Right.
Okay, I'm not going to shit on them for playing the kind of music that they wanted to play. I'm not going to be that guy. Okay. But what I am getting at is that this band, the thing that is surprising and confusing to me about this band is that for as popular as they are, they don't have a lot of material. Like That's a little true. Okay, like spoilers, the first record is a classic. right? Like it's not necessarily-
100%.
It's not necessarily my cup of tea, but when I listen to it, I know what a classic record sounds like, and it's a
Top
classic
5 rock record of all time.
for sure.
Top.
No question.
I mean, it's not mine, but that's fine. But I get it. Most people would agree with that. The second record's not even really a record.
It's
a half live album with fake crowd noise and then a bunch of fucking acoustic songs at the end of it. And
Right.
the fake crowd noise album was recorded before the actual debut album was recorded, which is why it's slightly shittier in the way of like they worked their way up to Appetite, you know? They worked up quite an appetite for Appetite.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, it's clever. My mom told me today how clever I was. But I think that, the third, and then the third record is just like over. So it's 2 records in one. First of all, I already fucking hate albums that are an hour and 16 minutes long. So then you fucking give me 2 albums that are the same album. So it's like double that runtime. No, you fucking lost me.
Right.
And then, you move on. We're going to talk about these records in more detail, but you go on to the next record and it's a whole bunch of punk rock cover songs, which is fine. I mean,
it's terrible.
It wasn't unenjoyable to listen to.
No,
it just
garbage.
didn't sound anything like the band that was on the cover, right?
No, it's garbage.
Okay, well that's your opinion, and it's correct, but I'm trying to be really nice. I don't want to trigger you guys.
Trigger nice.
Yeah, but
Too
then,
early to trigger John Drake.
but then it's just like a whole bunch of fucking nothing, and then you get Chinese Democracy, which has like a serious identity crisis
And was clearly sitting on tape for over 10 years.
for a really long time. It's
Yeah.
like a tribute to the '90s. It's a weird fucking record.
Well, and then you get the quote unquote 2 new songs,
right.
Hard School and Absurd, I can't even describe how bad those songs are. I saw Absurd live last August at Comerica Park in Detroit, and it was I think that was like the 3rd show of the tour or something like that. So there wasn't a lot out. They had just released it on, I think on YouTube. It just released it somewhere, and my wife and I were driving to Detroit, and we're like, all right, let's not, they got to play this, so we'll wait to hear it live. And we were like, okay, cool. Here's some new Guns N' Roses, and they went into this song, and I was like, okay. And my wife's favorite band is Guns N' Roses, and I'm like, I didn't want to say anything because if she was into it, I didn't want to shit on it.
Trying to stay off the couch that night, John?
Oh, right. Exactly. But I'm not kidding. It had to be 45 seconds. She turns to me with a Mick Ultra in her hand, and she's been drinking, and so that's when she gets really honest. She's just a beer girl, just drinks nothing but Mick Ultra. She goes, "What the fuck is this?" And I said, "This song this their new song. It's called Absurd." She goes, "This is fucking absurd." And then took a swig of her beer and sits down. I was like, "Oh my god!" That's the ultimate commentary. So there you go.
Holy
and then
shit.
they put out, and then Hard School comes out. I'm like, "Oh god, this is awful." So when they keep talking about, Slash is like, "Yeah, there's a new Guns record coming out. We're gonna do this." I'm like, "Well, you better not do that, dude."
You've been fucking saying that shit for over 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
Put up, shut up, or for God's sake, shut up.
Yep. So we're gonna get into I assume the discography in just a second.
Oh, yes.
But Dan, I'm going to teach you something right now. I'm going to teach you about riff writing and about good riff writing. And you said Motley Crue is like I prefer Motley Crue riffs. Good riff writing is Motley Crue because they have awesome riffs.
Agreed.
But great riff writing is Guns N' Roses. I want you to do something for me after we're done with this podcast episode. Put in your earbuds and take one out and listen to Appetite for Destruction. You'll hear one guitar on that side, okay? Listen to the song, then put it back in, take the other one out. Dude, it's a totally different guitar part in most of those songs on either side. And you don't know it because we could sing the guitar riffs from Appetite for Destruction, but what you don't know, and I didn't realize this until 6 months ago. One of my earbuds blew out, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then I fixed it, put the other one in. Dude, Izzy and Slash are actually playing different things, and yet they come together to make the riff that we sing to, the riff that we know. It's fucking absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And you, as much as you're not, you don't like the bluesy shit, like you said, like you don't like this kind of stuff, but you are a musician and you are a music fan, dude. I'm telling you, listen to these songs in one ear and then listen to it in the other ear. They're doing two totally different things, but it comes together into one consolidated riff that everyone sings. It's absolutely fucking kick ass.
But only do that on Appetite, right?
No, it's pretty much on the rest. Like, but unfortunately, as we will get into, the future records are way too produced. And so it's, but I mean, yeah, it's pretty much on Appetite, dude. Like, Appetite is just a fucking brilliant record in every way that a record can be brilliant. So, Joe, take it away.
Let's do this.
Well, before John Drake knocks on heaven's fucking door, I'm going to take this time to say thank you to everyone for listening to the podcast. Thank you for listening and for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, then you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. So if you have an Amazon Echo or Google Home, you have no excuse. Ask it to play the latest episode of the Discography Discussion podcast, and it will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps us out. It lets us know you're listening, and now Dan is going to tell us all about 5-star reviews.
We love 5-star reviews here on Discography Discussion. If you want to leave us a review, leave us a review. If you don't want to, then don't. I can't tell you how to live your life. You just do what you do. You know what I mean? So, keep them coming. If there's something you want to say to us directly, though, send us an email, danandjoeshow@gmail.com. And if you would like to sponsor a episode of the podcast with either your business or your band or whatever you got, send us an email, danandjoeshow@gmail.com. Tell us you want to sponsor an episode, and we'll see what we can do for you.
John Drake, what is going on the Nerfherder Council, on Talking Into Infinity, on whatever else you want to fucking plug? Go!
So Nerfherder Council is a Star Wars centric podcast, but we recently rebranded. Not really rebranded. It's still the Nerfherder Council. It's an all nerd all the time podcast.
Fuck yes.
So yeah, we, as you know, dude, you are about to do a Star Trek episode with my co-host, my favorite person on the planet, my brother AJ. So you're gonna talk some Trek, So we're going to do that.
Down.
We're going to do that. Talking Into Infinity. I'm telling tales out of school. But we will be live on March 10th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to do a deep dive into Systematic Chaos. So if you're into Dream Theater and you like Systematic Chaos, jump on. But we may be preempted because we might have Dream Theater themselves on to do a tour recap. It's either going to be that episode or the following episode, but we might have actually Dream Theater themselves on. So that is what's going on. But check us out. Nerfherder Council, nerfherdercouncil.com, at NHC Podcast, Talking Into Infinity at TIIDT Podcast, talkingintoinfinity.com. So there you go. If you like Star Wars, if you like nerdy shit, if you like Dream Theater, jump on and check out the Nerfherder Council and Talking Into Infinity.
Do it.
Now get on to Guns N' Roses, man.
So, Dan, tell me about Guns and fucking Roses.
I don't know who Guns and fucking Roses are, but I know Guns N' Roses is a hard rock band. They're from Los Angeles, California, as if a band like this could come from anywhere else. They have been around since 1985 and have put out an embarrassingly short discography in that time period. They are still together as of this very day for now.
Timestamp, current status of Guns N' Roses, and yep, we're good.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Some sort of mixture of a band called LA Guns and another band called something else, Hollywood Rose, I think it was.
Hollywood Rose.
So a combination of Hollywood Rose and LA Guns, featuring members of both of those bands, is how you get Guns N' Roses. Except then the LA Guns guy quit or something very early on, but they still stuck with the name Guns N' Roses for whatever reason. I would have named my band Pig Rectum, but that's just me.
Gross.
Yeah, I know. It's rock and roll. What else do you want me to say, Joe? This band is a hard rock band with heavy metal leanings. They have a guitarist that's better than the rest of the band that he's in.
I'll go with that.
What else do we?
Izzy is the man. You're talking about Slash.
I guess you could say Izzy and Slash. I don't think either one of them suck. I mean, I think they're good, at least on that first record.
I'm going to let you finish, but I'm going to disagree with you about Slash being better than the rest of the band.
Okay. I'm gonna since I know you're coming in hot on that, I'm gonna tell you I do not think that Slash is like rock my world guitarist either. But I have very, very high standards for. I mean, I listen to technical death metal, so like all these guys are just basically playing with baby's toys at this point.
Well, technical death metal is shit compared to what Slash does, because every single note that Slash plays is absolutely tasty and perfect, and it's
most of the time.
No, all the time.
He takes a few takes sometimes. Sometimes he goes too far, man. I love Slash. I love what he does, but sometimes he's over there somewhere, and I just want him to stop and come back.
Have you ever seen him live?
One time.
Yes, I have.
I have seen him live many times. I actually opened for Slash when he was in Velvet Revolver. And dude, that guy, like, he just always nails it, dude. He always fucking nails it. He just is tasty. He does not miss a note. And Dan, to your point about Slash being better than the rest of the guys in the band, that is completely discrediting Duff McKagan as a bass player. He is absolutely incredibly underrated, because when you listen to the Guns stuff, it's not just a bass line. It's almost like a lead guitar line, but it adds to what Izzy and Slash are playing. This is the thing, dude. Like, and we talked off air. Like, you're not a fan. I get it. And as we said earlier, you got to listen to it in the left ear and the right ear and stuff like that, dude. Listen to the bass line as well. Like, you probably have not done so because you're not a fan, so I get that. But as a music fan, listen to like 3 or 4 songs on Appetite and actually, like I said, do the right ear, left ear thing. But check out the bass lines that Duff McKagan is doing. Dude, it is fucking tasty. It's fucking brutal. It fits so fucking well.
Keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Oh, I'm sorry, technical death metal guy. Everything was super precision.
Technical death metal, Dan.
Well, whatever the hell, dude. I'm a Dream Theater guy. I know what technical metal is.
But see, here's the thing, though. Like, you're saying all this shit is like tasty, and you listen to fucking Dream Theater, man. Like, you know that this stuff is like, it's not necessarily like of the same caliber of stuff even like Dream Theater.
Well, yeah, but it's totally different. It's like, it's rock and roll.
Right, but what I'm saying is that I'm not a, there's a reason our website's discussmetal.com and like all that stuff or whatever. And the only reason we're talking about Guns N' Roses is their occasional crossover into that sort of category. But I am, by and large, not a rock fan or a hard rock fan. And the thing is that I only say that not to say that I'm better than people that like hard rock, just to let them know that, like, anything that I say about this band, if you're a fan of hard rock, you know that I have no credibility in that regard because I've stated that I'm not a fan. You know what I mean? It's not like you suck because you like this. It's more of a, I couldn't tell you if this is good hard rock or not good hard rock because I don't have the appreciation for it. I can sit there and tell you what good metal is, until the cows come home.
I don't know about that because you dissed a few Dream Theater records that were great, but
no, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I was so I was so positive. I was so saccharine sweet on those episodes.
Saccharine sweet. That's a Def Leppard lyric. Nice.
Yeah, I know.
So
I liked Def Leppard.
Please. So, dude, seriously, like Duff McKagan is like so underrated, and I'm telling you, like. And I'm talking to you not as a podcast host, but as a musician, because I know you play, and you don't have to like the stuff, but it's like I'm incredibly narrow-minded, there's not a lot of stuff I like.
Same.
The bands I like, I love. Everything else, like, yeah. So, but I do appreciate the musicianship, the musicianship of things, the bass lines, the guitar stuff, and I'm telling you, dude, like, even though you're not into the gun stuff, when you go listen to Duff McKagan as a bass player, he is absolutely underrated. It's just so incredibly tasty. And I will use the word again, brutal, because it's heavy. He hits heavy stuff under some simple guitar parts, man. It's like he's just nailing it on things, dude. And and he's a punk rock guitar player, and yet he still plays these incredible bass lines that when you learn them and you play, because I played them on stage, like I had to learn some Duff McKagan stuff. It's complicated, it's direct, and man, it is powerful shit, dude. I mean, Guns N' Roses is very underrated for their musicianship. I mean, the songwriting is awesome, but the musicianship is absolutely underrated. They're one of the most underrated like songwriting bands of all time, I think. You know, and again, I said I'm narrow-minded, but their songwriting is fucking brilliant, dude.
I agree with the early records that the songwriting is great. And you're right, Duff doesn't get enough credit because it's 1987 and the record was mixed with the bass not forward. And as a musician, I want to hear everything. If the band had been Metallica and the bassist had been Cliff Burton, it would have been front and center with all the guitars.
Yep.
But because Slash is in the band, we have to put the bass in the background, which is something producers have finally gotten over, I think. Putting everyone in the mix in a way that you can hear them, not necessarily feel them. Because back in 1987, when Appetite for Destruction came out, it was huge. Everybody bought into it because the band felt big. I think at a time when more synthesized music was popular, Guns N' Roses took everyone back to, remember when Aerosmith was heavy? And I don't mean heavy, I mean big. And it met that need that everybody needed. And I do say the word needed because there's nothing artificial about this first album. But here's Duff in the background. I can hear him, but remix this album. Bring him forward.
They're
Give
working
me
on
more. Of course they are.
Remixing the album, yeah.
I think he is there though, because there's things that, like I listened to the record today, like I listened to a bunch of their stuff today in preparation for this episode, and it's actually more forward than I think you would actually recognize. Like if you're listening for it, it's actually there, and you don't know. So, I think he is there, and to your point about like we needed rock, this is like we needed this, in 1987. I think like in the middle of the 80s, like you said, 87, when this came out, like rock was all over the place. But Guns, like it was, the decade of decadence, the 80s, like you had Motley Crue, you had all these crazy, like everything was like cocaine and drugs and booze and women and all. And yet Guns N' Roses came in right in the middle of that, and they were the baddest of the bad. I'll never forget walking into a record store in 87. I was 11 years old, and I saw like the album flats all over the wall, and it was like a cross, the Appetite album cover. There were skulls and the hair, and I'm like, what is this? And it's Appetite for Destruction. Just as an 11-year-old kid, when you say to yourself, Appetite for Destruction, you're like, oh, what the fuck is that? And then, and it looked so bad. And then I got the record, and I'm hearing like, fuck off. Like, turn around, bitch. I got a use for you. You're like, oh my God, what the hell is this shit? And like, it was dangerous and it was dirty in the middle of a decade that was dangerous and dirty. Guns N' Roses completely rewrote the book right in the middle of it. It was unbelievable. It was so different from stuff that was they stood out. Like everyone's like, oh, I'm Motley Crue. I'm doing drugs. Oh, I'm the Scorpions. I'm doing this. And here comes Guns N' Roses like, fuck you, dude. I just shot heroin and I'm slinging on a fucking cigarette and a Les Paul and go fuck yourself. Like, here we go. Like,
check out my sweet fro.
I could see how as a little kid that you could interpret that as him being a cool dude.
You are just going to be a downer the whole episode.
As an adult, trust me, this shit, the stuff that he says on albums is going to get way worse before it gets any better.
He's not wrong.
Okay.
True. All right.
Looking at you, next album. You guys both know what I'm talking about too.
Yeah.
But and I'm not going to go on a big tirade about it, but it's going to be mentioned. So yeah, I found the lyrics utterly repulsive and not in a fun sort of way. Don't get me wrong. I listen to death metal, so obviously repulsive lyrics are kind of my bag, as far as that stuff goes.
Right.
I definitely remember when I was listening to it today and actually like really paying attention to what he was saying. I was just like, holy shit, this I mean, this definitely did not age well in the sense of where we're at now. If somebody came out with lyrics like that now, they'd never get off the ground. Or maybe they would. No. Maybe it would still work. Maybe the shock value would still work, in this day and age. I don't know. Let somebody else try that. Let me know. Let me know how it goes. But yeah, I really like the energy on this record. Like overall, I like the immediacy of the songs. The kind of just like balls out. Like there were not like a lot of bands at that time, had these like very grandiose sort of like introductory sort of like slower, like melodic, like just trying to make everything sound really big, but ultimately making it sound boring. This was just like punk rock enough to just jump into the song and just start going right away. And it's just song after song after song after song. I mean, just like really, really kind of assaults the listener with like everything this band is about. And I like Axl's vocal delivery on this record, especially because he keeps it relatively screamy,
Right.
Right. Which is, my entire life is defined by turn down that screaming shit, So
Right.
This definitely fits in that category.
Sure.
It's funny with the vocals because he reminds me a little bit of like Robert Plant when he's hitting those, when he gets real high up there.
Yeah.
Like it's like he's hits. I used to always joke. I was like, "Yeah, now he's gonna hit the Robert Plant pedal," and he just like
The pedal,
slams down on it. And he can get those really awesome, like just dirty high shrieks. That's what they are. I mean, I know it's like still considered singing, but it is.
Right.
He's just screeching, most of the time.
And he does the Halford thing more than once.
He does the
I'm gonna go
Halford
really
thing,
high and then
yeah.
really low.
Yep.
And who knows what the fuck's coming next.
I don't really have anything bad to say about this record. I mean, I tried really hard to find some shit to talk about it, but I really couldn't, other than the lyrics. I mean, the lyrics are a little stupid, but I mean, if that was what all music was judged by, half the music that exists, wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, you're into death metal. I mean, like death metal lyrics are like, "I have guts, I have nuts."
This song is about shooting blood out of your cock. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, I think, and Joe, I'm interested to get your opinion on this because, like, we talked again before we started recording. I really think that Appetite is a top 5 rock record, like, ever. It's, every song, and Dan, you just said it, like, it just, the record goes and goes and goes. It does not stop. So when you start out with Welcome to the Jungle and you're like, holy fuck, that's a great song. And then, It's So Easy comes on and you're like, oh, that kicks ass. And you're like, wow. And then Night Train, and Out to Get, like, you're like, at that point, you're like, what the hell? And it's almost like, and Paradise City is a phenomenal rock song.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like the one song you can probably skip on the record because you're like, it is that kind of salad. Like, on good records, like right when you're about done with what the band's doing, you need a little break and they put that little ballad in there. And then you get to the rest of the record. Well, the quote unquote ballad of the record is Paradise City. You're like, okay, that's more straightforward.
It's not really a ballad. Yeah.
Exactly. And then what comes, first song on side 2, My Michelle, the single most underrated Guns N' Roses song they've ever fucking recorded. And the whole record just goes and goes and goes. Like, and Joe, how do you feel? I really feel like this is a top 5 rock record. And I don't think, as much as it's like revered and everything, I really don't think it gets discussed enough.
Start to finish, one of the best albums for aspiring musicians. If you want to learn how to play guitar, if you want to learn how to play drums, if you want to learn how to sing, if you like music and you want to make music and you're getting everybody together, if you want a cheat sheet on how to write a good song and play together as a band, because that's the last lesson everybody learns, and most of us learn it the hard way. Appetite for Destruction is exactly what you're looking for.
Yep.
Aerosmith was the best example I had for how to have a start to finish rock record where the band is playing as one. It's not just a series of riffs. And I'm somebody that started playing guitar because I heard James Hetfield on a Metallica record. So that's my baseline for how to write a song. But you can play as a band and it sound interesting, and it cannot fall into the trope of here's the good song, here's the ballad, and the rest of it is crap. How many records, John, have you heard that have one or two good songs? That's the old trope. That's the 90s trope. That's the 80s trope. We have the single. We have the ballad. Appetite for Destruction says, yeah, we've got the singles because somebody forced us to pick one, but what's the worst song on this album? And is that song still better than any single that you've heard?
Paradise City is the worst song on the album.
And it's way fucking better.
It's still good. Yeah, it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife's favorite band is Guns N' Roses. We were listening to the Appetite as we're hanging out today. And we were like, man, I told her, I was like, I'm going to have to pick a song that's not good on the record. Like, if you had to cut one, and we came down to Think About You and Anything Goes. You know,
Anything Goes, yeah.
But when we're like, all right, like, because Dan, like, to your point, like Paradise City, I don't think it's the worst song on the record, but I think it's the one we're most sick of for some reason. Like, literally, my wife's favorite band is Guns N' Roses.
It's Changes in the House of Flies.
It's overplayed for whatever reason.
Next,
all radio station DJs, if those are a thing that still exists now, I assume it's all just computers now. But
yes,
back in the day, for whatever reason, a DJ would always pick Paradise City over Welcome to the Jungle, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, dude, like my stepdaughter used to live in Dallas, Texas, and you know I've said it ad nauseum. Guns is my wife's favorite band, so we went down to visit my stepdaughter in Dallas to see her, and Slash was playing in Uncasville or whatever the hell it was, Oklahoma. So we drove like an hour, took my stepdaughter and her boyfriend. It was at a casino, and my wife and I saw Slash, and they were running around gambling and all this other shit. And the show was absolutely killer. Slash is always absolutely killer live. And they get to the encores, and my wife, like, as big of a Guns fan as she is, she's like, I think Paradise City's gonna be the last one. Are you okay if we bolt? I'm like, yeah. Like, she's like, I'm so tired of this song, like, you know. and we took off, like, we heard ding, like the chord, and she's like, we're out. So she grabbed me, runs out, grabs a beer, like,
at least finish the set with Mr. Brownstone.
Oh, dude.
Come on.
Oh,
good
dude.
Old Mr. Brownstone. The reason why this band had so many fucking internal problems.
True.
That is,
dude. It's this whole record, man. Like, it's such a fascinating record to talk about because it's, I mean, to me, I don't think there's any other band you could talk about that is so legendary that only has one record where you go, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm having the most trouble wrapping my head around. Is
and
like,
it's the first
how
album.
are these guys, like, first of all, how is this record so good? If the first record is this good, why aren't the other records even half as good?
I think, like, we'll get into Lies, I'm sure, in a minute.
It's coming.
Well, I was going to say we better because we're talking about Guns N' Roses.
That whole album is Lies.
Yeah. Right.
It's not even an album. Come on. We're going to talk about it because it's considered a studio album, but they're in trouble with us. That's not how our rules usually work.
I love your definitions, man. Yeah, like, I mean, Appetite is so incredible. And personally, I'm a huge fan of Lies. Like, I get it that it's, you know, half of it's a live EP that they pumped in crowd noise to, and then the other half is, you know, acoustic stuff. I get it. You know, it's a very weird record. And later we'll get into the Use Your Illusion record. So I think those are good too. But I mean, the Appetite record is just, I mean, literally, they're on a reunion tour right now that has lasted for now over 6 years. And it's all because of that one goddamn album.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
100%.
Crazy. It'd be like if Van Halen, like, only ever, they did Van Halen 1 and then maybe like 3 more records and we're still going. Like, Van Halen 1 is that good. I mean, but like Van Halen had other stuff that was so good, and they had this longevity to the career, and yet Guns had all this dysfunction, all this goofy shit, and everything they've done for what, like 30 years or whatever, is 35 years, like, all because of Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah,
it's crazy how influential and good that album actually is. And you know, I don't think there's almost, and you guys would know better than I. Like I say, you would know. I'm very close-minded, so you guys would know way better than I would. But I can't think of another band that has a record like that has, like, you know, had them, like, it's helped them exist for almost 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, none of the bands.
Only one record.
Except.
Well, yeah, except
Balls to the
Balls
Wall.
to the Wall. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I knew
It's
you
a good
guys would
one.
know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. All right. See, I knew you guys would know.
Well, we talked about a lot of bands. I mean, you're right though. That's the only one that I can really think of that like they're still going off of the success of the first record. You know, the debut. For like, how many bands put out a debut that's that good? And then their follow up, like look at a band like Metallica, right? You got Kill 'Em All, which was a great debut, and then you go to Ride the Lightning, which is like 100 times better. And then 100 times better. But Guns N' Roses, it's like they put out their magnum opus first.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it just and I think they were always trying to find it too, because like as we go on in the discography, like you can tell that they are trying to work to some bigger thing. But then they run into the problem that every fucking band runs into, and that's getting dudes to show up, having personal conflicts with dudes. Half your dudes are strung out on drugs, and you can't get a hold of them. You got one guy in there that thinks that he is the band.
It's
You know what I
probably
mean?
the lead singer.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, I didn't say that was the lead singer, but in this case,
I did.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah, it's just,
Nice.
it's kind of just, you know, it's very odd. It is not the type of, if bands had character arcs, it is not the type of character arc that you're used to seeing.
Yeah, for sure.
1988, GNR Lies. And Lies is what this album is. It was them playing live in a studio, I think. And
Oh, no, buddy. They weren't playing, I mean, they may have been tracking live, but like this was a studio recording.
well, it sucks
That
then.
they just
I can't
straight up-
stand it.
They just, well, this was, but these songs were actually recorded on an EP that they put out. They recorded this EP prior to recording Appetite for Destruction.
Yes. Live Like a Suicide.
Yes, Live Like a Suicide was the EP. And then they just threw some fucking like bargain bin acoustic tracks on at the end of it. They're not.
We need some
they're not
filler,
bad.
guys.
They're okay.
JT, give me a D chord. Let's
That
go.
wasn't
Let's
fair.
go. Let's go.
That wasn't fair. They're not necessarily bargain bin, but it's just not. After you listen to Appetite for Destruction, are you in the mood to listen to some fucking acoustic songs?
It's
But that's why-
fine as long as the next album is going to do Appetite for Destruction again.
See, but I think it was a very Guns N' Roses. God, see, it's such a weird career for them, dude. This is such a weird band to talk about. Like, I was about to say that's such a Guns N' Roses-y thing to do. And yet you get that perspective from having, you know, you got 20 years space, 25 years space off of it, whatever. You know, but I mean, back then, like, it was, yeah, you guys are completely right. Like, what the hell is this acoustic crap, you know? Especially like, you know, side one of Lies is like all this like live, loud, like aggressive, just heavy
It
rock.
at least sounds like Guns N' Roses, you know?
Yeah. And then it opens up with Patience on the other side, and you're like, well, that's interesting. Like something, and then, you know, you get into the other three songs, and which I think are fantastic. But I absolutely love Lies. I think Lies is so unbelievably cool because of how different it is. But you know, hindsight gives a much better perspective of the record. And you guys are right. You're like, what the fuck is this? Like in the moment when you're looking for the follow-up to Appetite, you're like, what the hell is this? And yet looking back, you're like, that's so Guns N' Roses. So
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a time loop, though. Like, would it be so Guns N' Roses, you know, if they
Yeah.
had never done it? You know what I mean? Like, it's like the fact that they did it makes it a Guns N' Roses move. And if they did it again, you'd say that's so Guns N' Roses. It just, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's John Connor and the Terminator, you know, like just
Right.
over and over again.
Yep.
But
John, come with me if you want to rock.
this record...
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, this record, like, according to Discography Discussion's rules, you know, is technically not an album, you know, because we define an album as original, is a presentation of original material and is at least longer in length or track or song amount, you know. We don't necessarily have a length rule on how long an album has to be. But this is clearly just like, here's an EP that we put out. It's not even a real live show. And I can't get over that. I can't get over the pumping crowd noise. Like, who wants that anyway? Like,
Everybody that likes the first Kiss live album.
okay, well, this this album contains, I mean, a song that like, why did they put 1 in a Million on the album?
Well, they just did like a greatest hits or something or a box set recently,
Uh huh.
and left it off. They basically said, no, forget that. Like, which is such a pussy move. It's like, if you're gonna be Guns N' Roses, keep that damn song right there and go. No,
honestly,
I own up to it.
I think they should. If they're the ones that decided to take it out, I support that. I don't support censorship in the sense of somebody else comes in and tells you got to take something out, and then you just do it because the man's gonna. But like, I mean, you look at how old these guys are now, and look at how old they were when they recorded this. Obviously, they are not the same people that they were. I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back and take back some of the shit that I said when I was younger.
Right.
There's stuff that I can go back and say on this show, like unsay certain things. So like I think if that was their decision, I respect that. But I mean, it is one of those things where like there are certain lines that even back then I would have not been okay with. Go read the lyrics to those songs if you guys want to know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into it and just make up your own mind about it. But it definitely bothered me and stuck out like a sore thumb, especially this past couple of weeks. I was like, holy shit, did he just say what I thought he said?
Yes. Yes, he did.
Yeah, so I was definitely not like, I'm not here to make some kind of grand statement about it, but you can go listen to it and judge for yourself. And Axl has provided his own explanation for that, which... is basically what I said. Like, yeah, I was a different person when I was younger than I am now.
Right.
So I get that. Whatever. Anyway, but yeah, I just did not enjoy the sequencing on this at all either. Like, it almost would have been better if they would have done like,
really?
Yeah, like I feel like it would have been better if they would have done like 2 heavy songs, an acoustic song, 2 heavy songs, an acoustic song. Just something to like. It just it annoys me a little bit. I don't know. You could look at this 2 different ways. If you're listening to it on an actual record, sure, there's no shame in just listening to side 1 and that's all you listen to, right?
Yeah.
Or if you like side 2 more, or if that night you're feeling introspective and you want to turn it over and listen to side 2, I get that. But like, I just feel like it as a consumer, I would feel ripped off if I bought this album. Especially if it was a new release from a band that had just put out basically what I would consider to be the greatest album I'd heard like ever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This sounds like a bullshit segue to we're still working on it.
Yes, it sounds more to me like, oh, dude, the label just called and they said they're fucking gonna pull all of our funding if we don't fucking sit down and make a record. All right, well, let's grab this EP that we recorded and what are we doing tomorrow night? Dude, I think we can shit out like 4 acoustic songs. Like
shit out.
Yeah, like let's just sit down and fucking let's do this, Like
right.
It only requires a couple of us to be there. It's, we don't need drums or anything. It's just let's just do some acoustic songs. And then we were like, look, dude, here you go. We got all those songs. It's a full-length record, 8 songs. Let's go.
Not. Though.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. Like 30 minutes long. It's two fucking EPs jammed together. It's like not an adult. It's 2 children in trench coat and standing on each other's shoulders in a trench coat. Like, come on.
That's a fantastic analogy. See, I got to tell you, Dan, like I actually like the differentiation between the 2 sides. I love one side is like, regardless, it's fake, whatever. The first side fucking rocks. You're like, yeah, and then the second half, just like, I love that like the 2 halves are so different, and again, like, my second favorite band is Dream Theater, so maybe I'm into that kind of like goofy kind of thing, like, but I love how I love that they didn't do like, okay, so here's Move to the City, like, and now here's Patience, like, like, no, man, just they kick ass and then they get down into it and stuff like that. And I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. And I think a song like You're Crazy would get lost in that kind of sequencing, because You're Crazy really stands out. Like, because You're Crazy is the, that's the original version of it. That on Lies, that's the way they wrote it. But on Appetite, they punked it like, they speed it up and everything like the cocaine version. And I think it would get lost. Whereas on the second side of Lies, you're like, wait a minute, what the heck is this? Like, it's really in there. Like, it stands out. So I really love the sequencing. So I thought it was really cool, man. I thought it was really cool.
I think what you have with this is obviously rushed.
Yes.
But it's a happy accident and a testament to them as musicians that it still turned out to be good.
Yes.
They were still kind of in that period of time where they could do no wrong.
Yep.
You know, that's going to change for me very, very soon. But we'll get into it.
Which would you like? 1991, Use Your Illusion, 1 or 2, John?
Oh, this is the easiest decision. Use Your Illusion 2, by far.
Why does that one work? The first one starts off with the right kind of attitude for a Guns N' Roses record, but it just does not work for me. And I'm put off anytime a band puts out 2 albums and tries to sell it to me as one thing or 2 separate things. I had the same reaction to System of a Down. Here's Mesmerize, here's Hypnotize. And I put them side by side and said, you guys have 1 album worth of material. It just happens to be that your songs are 2 minutes long.
Well, I mean, I think that's a bad comparison because System of a Down is absolute fucking garbage, trash, horrific, garbage, shitty, just crap. So you can cut that out later, I'm sure, but fuck that band, they suck. But Guns, like, I completely agree with you. Like, Use Your Illusion 1 starts out, you're like, it's a Guns record, and then the rest are like, it's really weird. Like, the Use Your Illusion records, like, they came out when I was in high school, and when they came out, everybody was like, oh, Use Your Illusion 1 is so much better. And when I had the records, I was like, dude, Use Your Illusion 2 is way better. And everyone just destroyed me for it. But I'm like, dude, I still and I re-listened to Use Your Illusion 1 this week a bunch. And I still don't remember much of it. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like the B-sides from Use Your Illusion 2. And I've felt that way ever since 1991 when I was 15 years old. And I was like, what are people getting out of Use Your Illusion 1? Like, I mean, November Rain is beautiful. It's one of the best songs, they ever did. One of the best songs ever, pretty much. And yet it was something they had before the Appetite for Destruction stuff. Like, if you read Slash's biography and go through all the history of Guns N' Roses, they had November Rain around forever. And it finally ended up on Use Your Illusion 1. So that's awesome. The Beatles cover, Live and Let Die. But the rest, you're like, okay, so you've got Don't Cry. Like, okay, there's another version of Don't Cry. Name me another song on Use Your Illusion 1 that's, oh yeah. And yet, when you go, name me a song on Use Your Illusion 2, you can go Civil War, Used to Be Mine, or whatever, the Terminator 2 song. You've got another version of Don't Cry. You got Yesterday's, 14 Years, like all these different things that absolutely rock. And what was the purpose of doing 2 records, man? Joe, to your point, you were like, I don't like when they do 2 records. It is 1 record with a shitload of filler, and all the filler is on Use Your Illusion 1.
I think this more had to do with the fact that I think that they probably were writing this album, because I'm just going to call it this album. It's 1 album. Like, I don't give a fuck about part 1 and part 2.
Right. Yeah.
I think they were writing this album probably even as far back as Lies, and or they had sort of the beginnings of it. But what this seems like to me more is kind of an ego thing. They are not a careered enough band yet at this point to be putting out double albums. They're just not. They've got 2 albums under their belt. One of them's not even a real album, but the other one's really, 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 really good. So they get a little leeway there. I think that this is more of an ego thing because most bands will write somewhere close to 20 to 30 songs for each record, and then they go in and they trim the fat and they pick out the songs that are the best and probably the songs that they personally feel like they can play live for the next however many years. And for these guys, it's going to be a lot of years.
All right.
So I think that this was literally just not being able to trim the fat, being too in love with every single idea that they had and just not compromising on it. That's what I hear.
Too many ideas.
I don't hear a giant master stroke, because if I did hear a master stroke, all of it would be good and I'd be crying by the end of it. What's actually happening is all the stuff that they should have used is on part 2. And all the stuff that they should have cut out was part 1.
Yes.
And so I think that's where it's at. if you are a new Guns N' Roses listener, just skip part 1 and just listen to part 2. You're going to enjoy it. You're not going to enjoy it as much as you enjoyed Appetite for Destruction. But I mean, you never are going to enjoy, like, this band is, I'm just going to spoil it for you right now. This band is never going to make you feel that way again. That's over. That's gone.
Yep.
Unless you go and see them live and they play those songs, but that's the only time.
Yep. Totally agree. And again, like I had said, like, everyone, when the records came out, like, it was all about, Use Your Illusion 1. And I never got it. I mean, Dan, you phrased it perfectly. Like, all the good stuff is on Use Your Illusion 2. And Cut the Fat, that's Use Your Illusion 1.
Yep.
Like, what's awesome is, as it's aged, as both records, I should say, have aged, finally people are coming around to that Use Your Illusion 1 was like, and Use Your Illusion 2 is like, that's the good shit,
Yeah, there's some guy out there somewhere, and I'm sure he's going to email me right after this. That's usually how that works. And be all like, you have to listen to all of it, because you're not a real fan if you don't listen to all of it. Well, first of all, bud, I'm not a real fan. So, whatever. But, yeah, there's somebody out there that's going to hit you back with it's actually genius, because it's like Tool fans, right? Like, well, if you look at the Fibonacci sequence, you know what I mean? Like, or if you put it in this exact order or whatever, it's
Right.
like, no, I shouldn't have to remake my meal in order to enjoy it. It's not my fault. It's not my fault that dessert was better than the main course.
What a great analogy, dude.
And if you ever wanted proof that these records are good in that they have good songs, look at the old greatest hits. It's the singles from Appetite.
Yeah, it's all the best stuff.
And the second 2/3 from Use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hand curated.
So here we are. We have 2 flexing albums, because Guns N' Roses put out 2 albums this year, not 1.
We're already almost done with this episode. Like, that's how ridiculous this is.
Right?
Like,
I would like to bring up one thing, because it's always fascinating to me, since we're on this topic, like, of, Use Your Illusion 2 versus 1 and all this kind of stuff. Like, I really want to bring up Steven Adler, because we talked about Duff McKagan, but the only song, and I get it, like, it's chopped together from pieces, but the only song that Steven Adler played on both of the Illusion records was Civil War. Dude, Steven Adler is such an underrated rock drummer, and he's got that feel. And if you, like, in a vacuum, if you say one drummer played on one song of these 2 records, here it is, now listen to the rest, you would hear a difference. Like, Steven Adler, his feel, and just the way that he hits things, and it's such a different vibe. Whereas Matt Sorum, great drummer, but he's straightforward. I mean, Matt Sorum, all you need to know is Mike Portnoy tweeted out something bashing, Sorum, talking about Mike Portnoy's like, well, I just listened to November Rain. He did the same fill 23 times, like, and he did. And Sorum blasted back, it's called feel, dude. Like, no, Matt Sorum, it's not called feel. It's called you did the same cheesy fucking crap the same fucking time 23 times.
You just hope nobody would ever count it. Yeah.
Yeah. But Portnoy did, and he blasted him. Yet Steven Adler, just even as heroined out as he was, and I get it, they had to, paste takes together to get that Civil War drum part. It sounds way better than any other drum part on all those 2 records combined. It's always fascinating to me, because I went back and listened to this stuff, and to prepare for this episode, and that Steven Adler drum sound, that style just stands out, man.
I mean, you gotta love that they, we had to paste takes together, and he was on drugs, and that's why we had to fire him and all that.
Right.
This is the same guy. Axl Rose will turn around and be like, yeah, we're doing all the vocals 1 line at a time.
Yep.
Like, fuck you, dude. Is that how you're gonna do it live?
Yeah.
You're gonna get up there, you're gonna sing your first line, everybody's gonna stop, the audience is gonna stop, the band's gonna stop. Like, fuck off, man. Like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know, man. I feel like Adler got done dirty, because he got cleaned up. Well, and again, I wasn't there, right? But they basically were like, you're on drugs, you're fucking everything up, you're making it too hard for us to do this. And I realize that's a problem that has to be addressed. However, they turn around and, like, basically he gets clean, and they make him sign a contract saying that like he's gonna stay clean or whatever and all this stuff, but like that's not actually the contract that he signed. The contract that he signed that he thought was the whole get you clean contract was we're gonna give you like, we're basically firing you. You're signing you're signing your firing paperwork.
Yep.
And you're not going to continue with the band. And also, fuck you. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Right? And it's like the world's most dangerous band, known for drugs and alcohol, all this crazy shit.
But an intense HR process.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, all right, well, we're known for drugs and booze and women and all that stuff, but you're fired because you're into drugs and booze. Like, F off.
Yeah. I just can't even. I'm can't evening right now. Like it just blows my mind that we're such badasses, but now that there's money involved, now we're going to be all a bunch of fucking stiff-necked, bastards about it.
So I have to correct myself, by the way, from earlier. I called the song "Used to Be Mine." What an idiot! You could be mine. What a nimrod. So anyway,
I could be if you try hard enough.
I love it, man. So Joe, what do we got?
I don't want to have it because
who's hungry?
1993, we got the spaghetti incident.
Shit, we've all had a spaghetti incident.
It was delicious. Yeah. There was a lot of Parmesan cheese involved.
I don't even wear white shirts, but the day I did, oof.
Parmesan is actually the correct pronunciation.
And yet this album is nothing but covers. Is that what you wanted in 1993, John Drake?
It sucked. I listened to like two songs. Lazy. I was like, fuck this.
I like cover records when they're good. This is not good.
The guitar tone's actually all right.
The guitar tone actually is really good, actually, Dan. I completely agree with you.
I'm trying to find anything positive to say about a record that I found utterly it's one of those things that if somebody was holding this CD up in front of me and they're like, I'm going to break it, give me 3 reasons not to, I'm going to be like, just fucking break it, dude.
Yeah. I can describe this record very easily. My wife, we were drinking one night and we started talking about music, and she loves all kinds of different stuff. And I won't go back into her favorite band because I've done it ad nauseum.
Is the answer Guns N' Roses?
It might be.
Well, wait a second. It's Guns N' Roses, right?
Okay, cool.
It might be.
Make sure everybody that's listening is writing all this down. Okay.
I asked her. We're both drunk off our asses. I said, I have to ask you because I said, what do you think of Spaghetti Incident? 3 simple words. Fuck that record. She hates it.
Does she know what a favorite band is supposed to be?
Dude, Guns is her favorite band. And,
okay.
Dude,
I get it. That first record was fire, but oh, yeah, I wouldn't.
If she was on, she will defend some songs on Use Your Illusion 1 that all of us would crap on. She definitely agrees on Use Your Illusion 2. But again, Spaghetti Incident, she's like, fuck that record.
Well, it's not even a real record, and it's a trend now with this band that like, you guys need to put it on a new record. What do you guys got? We got Jack and shit. Well, we need to put something out. You guys are a recording artist under contract. If you remember, you guys need to put out something, All right. Hey, guys, what are your guys' favorite songs? I don't know. It's like, put them all together and then record worse versions of them.
Right.
Come on.
And I mean, in Slash's biography, he said they were barely a band. Like he basically was already out the door.
Yeah, he was done at that point. It was mentally,
It was just Axl. I mean, even during the Use Your Illusion sessions, he was pretty much like whatever. They lived in Chicago for several months writing the songs. Like Steven Adler had drugs in the freezer.
Of course he did.
And Axl was like, we have to do this in Chicago. I want to do it in Chicago. And, so the band's like, okay, we're going to Chicago. So they're there writing songs. Axl doesn't show up. Finally shows up like
5 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah. And yells at somebody out the window or some shit like that. Like, and then they fucking leave and whatever. So they basically weren't a band. And Slash is like, this is not what I'm into. And then you get to Spaghetti and he was already out the door. The band was already basically done, and it sounds like it. It looks like it, and even the songs they chose to cover. It's not even like okay, pick a cool song.
It's not a bunch of classics. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, and I get it. Like, okay, I'm guys could be like, oh, I'm a fan of this one song. Like, let's put our spin on it. They're not even good songs to put a spin on. It's like the whole thing in conception, execution, everything is crap. It's terrible to the point where people don't. Can we all be honest and say no one remembers that goddamn record? They think about Appetite, Lies, Use Your Illusion, Chinese Democracy, which we'll get to because it's a fucking joke. And then
you mean the meme album? Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's all garbage. Like, it's so bad that people don't even remember it. Guns N' Roses fans don't even, you say Spaghetti Incident, they're like, oh yeah, that one. Oh shit. Oh yeah, man, I forgot about that one. Like, it's not ever in their minds.
It reminds me of Slayer's Undisputed Attitude.
Putrid.
Yeah, it's like very much like, I don't give a fuck about this at all,
Right.
So yeah, I don't. Joe and I debated on whether we were even going to talk about this record because it was like, and honestly, there's not a whole lot to talk about. It's literally just a whole bunch of cover songs that don't sound anything like Guns N' Roses, but it's Guns N' Roses playing it, so I guess kind of sounds like them. But like, this is so like, imagine how ripped off you feel as a fan at this point.
Yeah,
you've gotten basically nothing since Appetite for Destruction. Okay, that's not entirely fair. You did you did still get your double album that was really only one good album. Use Your Illusion is just a really good name for an album like that.
Yes,
because The Illusion is only one of these albums is a real album.
Nice.
But I think that like overall, this band hasn't really. I mean, even if you liked that album, it's still, you didn't like it as much as you liked Appetite for Destruction, and everything else has just been dumb shit that they've thrown together.
Yes, completely agree.
And that's the way it's gonna be. I mean, you Use Your Illusion Part 2 is pretty much the last like thing that you got from Guns N' Roses that is Guns N' Roses.
Yep. I mean, Get in the Ring, the song, is the last Guns N' Roses moment that we will get ever.
Yeah, I mean, after this, obviously the band had already fallen apart.
Yep.
You've got a lead singer trying to, I guess at some point he had supposedly tricked the other band members into signing the name of the band over directly to him. And then they said, oh no, we did it under duress because he refused to perform one night until we signed over the band name to him. And, we all wanted to get paid. So we did it. And yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, yeah, that's whenever you just like, if you're a guitar player, you just step up into the microphone and just start fucking singing the songs yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who cares if nobody likes it? They already paid. You're still going to get paid that night. That's how we handle things over here.
Well, hold on a second, Dan. In order to do this album justice, we have to spend the next 5 years talking about it and then release our opinion 15 years from today.
There you go. Well, okay. So anyway, they having all kinds of problems, and Axl Rose was so fucking petty that like he was playing shows with a new lineup of Guns N' Roses, all throughout the 90s, having some activity here and there. But like if somebody was wearing a Slash shirt, he'd have security remove him from the show.
Yep.
If it was just so much like anything about Slash, all these dudes did was talk shit about each other in media. I'm sure the reporters loved it. I mean, they were the 90s versions of podcasters, if you guys don't know what music journalists used to be. Yep. They would eat it up. They'd run with that headline immediately if, Slash blasts Axl Rose blasts Slash in revealing interview. And, it's just shit like that went on forever and ever and ever. And things are weird whenever like at some point your new guitarist is fucking Buckethead. Like you're just like, good musician, but like it's still just like, what the fuck? Like what is going on right now?
Who is that guitar playing sons of bitch?
Yeah, and of course that dude's like basically, isn't Buckethead basically just like a homeless dude? So like part of the reason he got like kicked out of the band was because nobody could get a hold of him. This is like before texting and smartphones and stuff, and he probably didn't have internet access. Like, there's just no way to get a hold of this guy. Like, hey, we got a gig coming up. Our guitar player, nobody knows where he's walking around with a bucket on his head somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, just absolute craziness. But the entire time, Axl Rose is like, we've got this new record coming out. We've been working on it for a long time. I'm taking a lot of modern influences like electronics and industrial elements and all this stuff, and it's going to be the newest, biggest, greatest. And like, if you were a fan at that time and you're reading this interview, I don't think anybody ever asked for industrial elements in a Guns N' Roses album or alternative rock elements, you know. I mean, at least bands like I love that I'm using this as an example again. At least bands like Motley Crue in the 90s just kind of, even though they went like very 90s in their sound, they didn't hype people up about it for fucking years leading up to it, you know. And they eased everybody into it because they had Dr. Feelgood first, you know, to kind of like, all right, and then after, you know, it'll be all good now, you know.
Yep.
But this is like Axl basically being all like, I mean, if you look at what he was saying in a different light, he's basically saying, my entire band has quit. I'm the only person that's left, and I cannot wait to do whatever is popular now to stay relevant.
Right.
And that's not directly what he said, but if you add up all of his words, that's what comes out at the end of the equation.
Well, and look at the record. I mean, that's exactly that's the statement right there, man. Like, yeah. I mean, we've talked about the fact that they're. Let's be honest. Let's really put it down to what it is. Guns N' Roses is a band based off of one record.
Yep.
The record's so goddamn good that they can do all this shit they're doing. But Axl, like, we've all bought into it, and yet Axl himself bought into it with Chinese Democracy. Well, I can take as many years as I want. Well, I can write all kinds of goofy tunes that I want. I can do this because everyone's just going to love it, you know? Like, no, dude, like, at some point, you're going to run into the brick wall, and Chinese Democracy is the brick wall, you know? And
it's the Duke Nukem Forever of rock records.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
It's been laying around on tape, effectively finished.
Yep.
I want to hear one piece of this album. I want somebody to tell me this was recorded between 2000 and 2008.
If you had told me that this record came out in 2000, if you told me this record came out in 1996, I'd have been like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess they were going through a weird period there. You know what I mean? But I probably wouldn't hate it as much if it had actually come out that year. I'd be like, oh, yep, it's just another band that came from the 80s doing a weird 90s thing, trying to find their footing, you know? But, you know, unfortunately, all the other bands that we've talked about on this show that did exactly that all came back in a big way. You know, towards the end, where they suddenly woke up and they're like, wait a minute, this is the band that we are, and then they just go back to doing that. Guns N' Roses does not have that because they just don't, like, this record it's just been sitting there on tape forever and ever and ever. And this is, again, a band that's really bad about actually having ideas and actually having material. Any band worth their salt, if they were sitting on a record that long, would have just killed it. And just been like, yeah, dude, I know it's funny, haha, people are going to laugh at us because we never finished Chinese Democracy. But we recorded this new album, and we called it Guns N' Roses self-titled. And we wrote it all brand new. We sat down with everybody, and we wrote it over a 7-month period and jammed it together, and we had a great time. Unfortunately, this is just, I really apologize for using this as an analogy with present company. But they kind of George Lucased it. They sat there with something that they already had done, and they kept changing it and changing it and changing it and changing it, and never being happy with it. Now,
hey,
I'm
fuck you, Dan.
No.
Fuck you, Dan.
No,
fuck you with the George Lucas.
You're going to tell me that Return of the Jedi is better with a music number in it, John?
I'm not. Okay, I'm not getting into this. This is what I mean.
Why'd you got to go there, dude?
Because it's the best example.
You've got so many other examples. You've been awesome at you know what, Joe? Go fuck yourself, too. You had so many amazing analogies tonight, and you got to go to that one. Here we go with the damn it.
Okay.
Damn it.
Okay, here's the thing. You start screaming, you start...
I hate you and love you at the same time. So continue your point.
You start screaming and you stop listening. It's a character flaw. It's fine. I have lots of those, too.
It's called being married, my friend.
I'm. Yeah. No, what I mean is, okay. First of all, I never made any comment. I'm not saying that the changes George Lucas made Star Wars into Chinese Democracy. Okay, the biggest difference is that I just mean that the example is that you just have one guy that's making all of the decisions on something that was made by multiple people.
That is an excellent. See, you're back to the good analogies. Well, there you go.
But I mean, George Lucas was the only name that popped into my head for that. Okay, because he didn't direct all of the original trilogy movies. Other people, I mean, he did the first one, A New Hope, but he didn't direct the other ones. He was obviously still the guy in charge. Anyway,
not true. But continue your point.
He didn't direct. He did direct, but he had other directors involved.
Irvin Kershner was the director of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
George Lucas hands off. Richard Marquand was the director of Return of the Jedi, but it was going shitty, and so George Lucas had to step in, and he did direct that one. And that's a little known Star Wars fact. So get back to your point, damn it, Dan, and stop fucking with George Lucas.
Okay, let me use a different analogy.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a band that we talked about on this show a while back called Savior Machine. And they had recorded. They were like a gothic rock, gothic metal band. The dude sounded a lot like David Bowie. They were a cool band.
Right. Okay.
They released this. They had this album that they had announced that they were going to release this giant trilogy, and it was like called the Legend Trilogy. And so you had Savior Machine Legend, Savior Machine Legend 2, and then the third album in the Legend series was going to be a trilogy all on its own. So you'd have Legend Part 3, Part 1, Legend Part 3, Part 2. Legend Part 3, Part 3, right?
Okay.
And he got all the way up to Legend Part 3, Part 2. And then whenever he was finally going to get the third part of the trilogy out, he sat there forever trying to make it better, trying to throw as much shit in there as he possibly could until the record label finally just grabbed the last demos that he sent them, and they put that out because they were so sick of waiting on it. And it was exactly the same thing with Chinese Democracy. It was like, we're just waiting for this guy to get his shit together, but he's just going to keep messing with and using and trying to perfect and change. And because that's one of the things that's annoying about this album, because it's very, very inconsistent. It has a very huge identity crisis as to what era it's in, as to what, it's like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. They just went to different time periods and grabbed a dude, and then they all showed up, and everybody's confused with all these different elements from different time periods. Right. And Chinese Democracy is just like, it's a really good record of Axl Rose's like ups and downs between the last time this was a real band and now.
Yep.
But it's just unenjoyable to listen to.
Yeah, well, your analogies again are completely spot on. Like the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, like grabbing someone from this era. Like that's a perfect representation of it. And what he did not do was do a Guns N' Roses record. Like, as absolutely legendary as Appetite is, what it is 5 dudes, drunk, high, fucking chicks, and just getting in a room. They make like, if they have a job, they're at minimum wage, like $5 an hour, whatever the hell, stealing food, whatever, on the Sunset Strip. And it's just 5 guys kicking ass. And Axl Rose got up his own ass with the Illusion records. Like, oh, I want to do piano. Now I want to add this. Now I want, my buddy Dizzy Reed. I want all this.
Now I own the band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And he's like, well, now I own Guns N' Roses. So I'm going to do what I want Guns N' Roses to be. It's like, well, what you did is completely destroy what Guns N' Roses is. Because what people think about Guns N' Roses, they think about dangerous, nasty, just guitar rock. Like, Slash falling down drunk, Izzy just, high off his ass, like Steven Adler going goofy. Like, and Chinese Democracy is the opposite of a Guns N' Roses record. It's the opposite of Appetite for Destruction. And it failed because, first of all, the songs aren't good. So, that's
a pretty
the first
important element.
Yeah. But the second part of it was anybody that, even a like the most diehard Guns N' Roses fan went into it and went, this ain't Guns N' Roses.
This is a joke, right?
Yeah. One song works. Better is the one song that works because they throw it into their live set and it's like you listen to it like, okay, like the show flows. It's not like one of those, how there's bands you see, there's one song that's like a turd, like, oh, I'm going to go take a piss. Like, Better is not that song. Better, you're like, what is this? Oh, that's off Chinese Democracy? Oh, man, this is cool. This is rocking. I'll stick around, I'll take a piss at another time, whatever.
Right.
But I mean, it's not a Guns record, man. Like Axl thought he got so up his own ass, like that he thought he knew exactly, what Guns N' Roses was, like, and Dan, like, he phrased it amazingly. He runs the band. I know what's best for all that kind of stuff. And he wrote a fucking shit record that has nothing to do with Guns N' Roses, man.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with them. It's like it has nothing to do with Guns N' Roses. It's not even a good record on its own, as I said. It's not even.
No, even if it was just Axl Rose, the solo record, everybody
yeah.
That's why you shouldn't make solo records, bud.
Yeah, it sucks, but it sucks even more because it has a Guns N' Roses name on it.
It's disjointed.
Can you turn it off? I don't really want to keep listening to it.
It goes all over the place. It's 14 tracks that sound like it took 14 years for somebody to take away the choice.
Well, it's been 14 years of silence. It's been 14 years of pain.
It's one song per year if you average it out. So you're telling me that's the best one guy who's supposed to be one of the best lead singers, best performers ever in hard rock can't get 5 people together to write some fucking rock songs?
No, because he couldn't do that earlier in his career. Even when he had the full lineup, they still couldn't pull it off. They did once, amazing, lightning in a bottle, and nothing else ever even came close.
Yep.
This is even with the classic lineup. And he didn't write all this stuff himself either. He kept hiring people left and right to fulfill show obligations and all this stuff, and he still couldn't get it together. That record has the liner notes have probably got to be 27 pages long because of the amount. Yeah, the amount of people that contributed, the amount of people that gave advice, probably multiple producers, multiple, I wonder how much the original advance was for Chinese Democracy, because I think they was like on Elektra back then, and I mean the record label was pretty much like defunct, right? By 2000, I don't remember when Elektra went out of business.
Yeah.
But it's been a minute, man. It has been a minute.
Yep. I mean, the thing that's fascinating, like,
well, not Elektra, it was Geffen. I'm sorry.
I was thinking Metallica too, so I was rolling with you.
I even asked David Geffen personally if he'd buy it for me, but he wouldn't do it.
Nice. So, when you listen to the Slash records, like, imagine if Chinese Democracy never happened and the Guns N' Roses comeback record was Apocalyptic Love. I mean, wouldn't that
I believe that.
Yeah.
Even
right?
Velvet Revolver. I believe that.
Yes. I completely agree with that too. And I'm not a Scott Weiland fan. The guy was one of the biggest pricks in music history, like whatever. But anything besides Chinese Democracy, like the stuff that the guys did outside of Guns N' Roses was so much better, Like, I mean, and yet we get Chinese Democracy. And now, unfortunately, we have 2 songs.
Yeah, and that's with the classic lineup.
No, it's B. This is the worst. It's B-sides.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, you're
Democracy.
right. Yeah, I remember Slash even said something about like, yeah, we're working on a new record, and a lot of it is stuff that is written from before Chinese Democracy. This band can't fucking sit down and write a record. They just can't.
Yeah.
Like
what they need to do is go Slash, write us some fucking riffs. Let's do this. And yet Axl still has his finger. Do you guys have any hope for the new Guns record? Because there's going to be a new Guns record. I think we can all agree on that. Do you have any hope for it? Because I don't. I'm expecting the biggest fucking pile of shit. Not as bad as Chinese Democracy, but like when you're expecting a band to come back, and I'm sorry, like Van Halen is my favorite band, but I think it'd be really hard to dispute that A Different Kind of Truth was a fucking kick-ass comeback record, man. Eddie Van Halen's firing on all. It's just Eddie Van Halen putting on a guitar clinic. David Lee Roth lyrics, like, they were fucking brilliant. There's all these kinds of melodies and shit. Like, if you want a comeback record, Different Kind of Truth is awesome in that respect. Like, if you want a Guns comeback record, do you have any faith that it's going to happen on that level?
The answer to your
I
question.
don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, number one.
Right?
Bob Rock said it best to Kirk Hammett. Do it. Impress me.
Mr. Guitarist of the Year, Mr. People's Choice.
Yeah. Well, play guitar solo of the year. Like, play the guitar solo. I love that we're quoting A Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica. That is brilliant.
I think we all just wanted to talk about Metallica again. Yeah. Just like,
Well, all right, so let's do it. Okay, so And Justice for All, greatest metal record ever recorded. Go. Okay, I was joking about talking about Metallica, but that is a topic because And Justice for All is.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was done. I was just saying, like, And Justice for All is the greatest metal record ever fucking recorded.
Oh, I mean, I don't agree with that, but
Well, I didn't ask if you agreed. I'm telling you, it's a fact.
it's not.
If
No, it
Guns
is.
N' Roses
Metal
can
record
put out
has to have-
another
has to have
album
bass guitar
that
on it. You
even
said it
remotely
yourself
comes
earlier.
close to touching what Appetite for Destruction was, I'll give you Use Your Illusion 2 for the sake of the argument. Do something that actually resembles the band everybody thinks they love, because you don't love Guns N' Roses, the band that put out 6 albums.
You love Appetite
Ish.
for Destruction. Yeah.
You love the band that gets played on the radio. You love the singles. You love the band that goes and plays live, because they're going to play the songs that you like, because those are the songs that you've heard and you love. There's plenty of good songs by this band. You're going to enjoy the band. You're just going to have a hard time enjoying these albums. It's
Yeah.
all about Appetite for Destruction. I don't say this often. I want everyone to give the band the chance they deserve. The chance they deserve is the Silver Greatest Hits album until they give us a new album that can even touch the first one. That is my final thought. John Drake, final thoughts on Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses is one of the most amazing bands to discuss because they have one record that is so absolutely legendary, and yet that's pretty much. And I like a lot of the stuff they do afterwards. I was on record earlier saying I love Lies, I love Use Your Illusion 2, but Appetite for Destruction is pretty much the one, and for everybody, pretty much. It's Appetite for Destruction, and yet they have built a 40-plus year career, or 35-plus years, sorry, my math is off, on one record. They're an absolutely fascinating band to talk about because they're on a 6-year reunion tour, and as I said at the beginning of the show, I got suckered in. I saw them in 2016 when they really started it, and then I saw them last year. I'm like, oh my God, Guns N' Roses is back. I'm like, asshole, they've been back for 6 years, and it's all on the back of Appetite. I don't think there's any other band that has had this lengthy of a career based on one record, and it's fascinating, but it's also cool because we have Appetite for Destruction. It is a beautiful record. It is perfect in every way that music can be perfect. So Guns N' Roses, fuck yeah, dude. Guns N' Roses, fuck yeah, dude. That's my final thought.
Dan, what about you?
Good luck, boys. That's all I got. I mean, just write it for as long as write it as long as you can.
I pontificate and you're like, cool, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I don't have a whole lot of deep thoughts about Guns N' Roses. I think that's hard because I could go on for hours about a band I hate. I don't hate Guns N' Roses. I just don't love them either. I like that one record. I think that's a pretty good record. That's the only Guns N' Roses album I own is Appetite for Destruction. I remember getting the vinyl record too. I got it from a Goodwill store in probably 1993 or something. And I remember opening it up and seeing that robot and the woman with her shirt cut open, laying dead on the ground. Yeah, I thought that was just that's actually what they wanted to be the original cover. And the record label said no. They're like, no, you guys can't do that. But yeah, I mean, so I like that first record, but yeah, this band is a band that, I mean, good luck to them if they can keep riding it and they can get another 10 years out of it, but I don't know how they're going to do it without producing more material. I think the good thing is that they've lasted as long as they have. So even if their next record is just a shitty version of Appetite for Destruction, it'll still do all right. It just has to sound like that. You can't just go wackadoo in a totally different direction.
Fucking wackadoo.
Yeah.
I don't know, Chinese democracy.
Yeah,
that was what I was referring to. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, I think you said it. You just said it. Your description of the band speaks to how great Appetite is. You don't like the band, didn't want to do this episode, but yet you own Appetite for Destruction. That just speaks to how great the record is.
We all do, right? I mean, we all have that record.
Yep.
Dan, what's your album of the week?
My album of the week is Chinese Democracy by... No.
Get out of my house.
Literally the best album I've ever heard in my entire life. You guys just don't get it. It's unsung genius. I'm just going to have to go with Erebos again by Venom Prison. Love that band. Terrifying band.
John Drake, what about you?
I'm going old school. If old school was last year, I am still stuck on Mammoth WVH.
Yes.
The Wolfgang record,
you
man.
and this guy.
Dude, I'm telling you that it's like peanut butter on the roof of your mouth, man. I cannot get that record out of my head. I can't get the hooks out of my head. Like, man, that record is like when I was a kid, and you look forward to it and like naturally recorded shit. Like stuff that's not auto-tuned. It's like dudes in a room just kicking ass. That's what Mammoth is. But the songs are great. So I'm still stuck on Mammoth WVH.
Permission to Land by The Darkness. Because once I started the hard rock train, I could not stop.
Meh.
And I had to go full glam rock from the early 2000s. We did it, gentlemen.
We did. We survived.
I completely destroyed your show. I was an ass for most of it.
Oh, you're good. I mean, I'm usually the ass.
Let me just leave that there for a moment.
Hey, go fuck yourself.
You know what's funny about the George Lucas thing is I didn't even...
There's nothing funny about it. Go fuck yourself, Dan.
Yeah, no, I didn't even...
I'm glad your cars blew up, you sucker.
Jesus Christ.
I didn't mean that, but
I wasn't even well, it's funny because I wasn't even trying to say anything bad about George Lucas. I was just like, who's a guy that continually always sits on projects and continually changing them? It wasn't a good example because it's not like George Lucas has been sitting on the Star Wars trilogy for 20 years
No,
and nobody
he keeps going back and
it's
changing
not
it.
It's not like you're right.
You know, I just think it'd be great if Greedo looked at Han and said McClunky.
I don't care. Okay. That was a little, whatever. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that, like adding a dial. Anyway, whatever.
Why don't we end the show before we go on a rampage about Star Wars?
All right.
The show's already over, dickhead.
Well, I got to do my outro first.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
John Drake, thanks for hanging out, man. You coming back this summer for another signature hard rock band? Not going to name names. Not even going to give you initials.
It will be, I don't know, maybe we should do it at 5 p.m. or 1 p.m. or maybe 5 a.m. or 0. Either way, it's going to be motherfucking Van Halen.
I'm not recording at midnight, you fuck.
Listen to me, dude. I'm coming on to discuss the single greatest rock band in the history of recorded music, motherfucking Van Halen, dude. Doesn't matter if it's David Lee Roth. Doesn't matter if it's Sammy Hagar. Doesn't matter if it's Gary Cherone or Mitch Malloy. Yes, that's how much I know about Van Halen. I'm on to talk about goddamn Van Halen, the greatest rock band in the history of recorded everything.
Take us out, DFT.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening to this episode. And if you want to hear more episodes like this one, you can check us out at discussmetal.com or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. If you guys would like to reach out to us, you can send us an email at danandjoeshow@gmail.com. And if you would like to sponsor an episode of the podcast, please email us at that same email address. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/discography discussion. You can follow us on Twitter at discussmetal and on Instagram also at discussmetal. As always, guys, thanks for listening. We will see you next time.
And on that note, this has been episode 265 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion. And please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks.
Scrooge McDuckin through your money.
$1 a month gets you into that exclusive album review feed.
Aw, come on!
John Drake and the Nerfherder Council can be found everywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube.
As well as Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast.
We don't let you talk into infinity anymore.
No, he gets to. I decided.
hope and have no fear. The truth walks by your side.